Hello, and welcome to our next presentation. On behalf of the MIT CDOIQ Virtual Symposium, we would like to thank all of our sponsors who have continued to support the symposium during this very challenging year. Before we thank our partners, we'd like to ask that sometime during the symposium's breaks that you visit our partners' virtual booths. You can also visit the Content Hub on the MIT CDOIQ website for some great partner resources. We'd like to thank the following partners: Deloitte, Informatica, Privacy Analytics, DAWX, Fusion Alliance, KPMG, Sandal Consultants, Tamer, Elation, Ali Data, Big ID, Boomi, Caserta, Citizen, Data Kitchen, Garage, Wakira, Pylog, Click, ThoughtSpot, Eckerson, Global IDs, Snowflake, Starburst. And as I said, please make every effort to visit our partners, use the virtual passport, because without them and our partner support, the symposium could not be held. Thank you.
And good afternoon, everybody. This is Peter Aiken's voice talking to you from a part of the state of Virginia that doesn't have any internet outreach, but I'm at least able to participate, and I'm happy to introduce this next session. I'm actually going to turn it over to Beena, who's going to introduce our panelists here, talking about unleashing the power of women in data. And Deloitte has been working extraordinarily hard in this area and has achieved some really remarkable results that you're going to hear about in this session. I do want to tell you that our panelists are calling in from different parts of the world. Actually, it's the country in this case, but we've got New York, San Diego, Boston, Irvine, and the Bay Area represented. The reason Bay Area is because there's some fires and things that are going on. Then it's a rolling blackout. So hopefully we won't have any technical difficulties, but Beena, I will turn it over to you. Thank you for everybody joining.
Thank you, Peter. Welcome everyone to Deloitte's Unleashing the Power of Women in Data panel. My name is Beena Ammanath, and I am the Executive Director for Deloitte AI Institute. And today I'm moderating a panel of 3 amazing women who I will introduce shortly. And I will also start with one question for them, is what was a bold move that shifted your career? So my first panelist is Ashley. If you can introduce yourself and answer the question for our audience to get to know you a bit better.
Wonderful. Thank you, Beena. And thank you for the invitation to participate on this incredible panel with these amazing women today. So I'm a vice president in product development at Illumina, leading systems integration, product integration, business operations, and customer collaborations. So pretty broad swath. And at the heart of it really is data. So Illumina, if you're not familiar with our company, is really looking to transform kind of what's possible with genomics in improving human health. We develop and create the technologies that enable very rapid and high throughput genome sequencing to understand the biology of genomics. And so in that role, you know, we have incredible instrumentation, incredible data, and looking forward to talking about that. How I got here was pretty non-linear, actually. So in my past, I was actually an entrepreneur. So that was the bold move that kind of kickstarted my career. I was working on a problem in genomics, trying to analyze and interpret all of the genomic data, which is literally just millions of A's, T's, G's, and C's, if you remember back to high school biology. And how you do that was pretty non-trivial. If you think about finding the one mutation, right, the needle in a haystack, it's a big data problem. And you have to combine that sequence data with all sorts of other interesting data types to figure out what might be broken that's causing somebody's disease. So saw a big data problem, had a solution. We had developed a software pipeline in our academic institute to work on this problem. And I took the leap and started a company and built it up from an idea and some seed funding, ultimately sold it off. And that was kind of how I got into this area, and I love it.
Amazing. That's would love to learn more. Next up, Deepa, if you can introduce yourself and share what's your bold move.
Hi, everybody. My name is Deepa Bajaj, and I am Vice President of Data Analytics and Engineering in PayPal. PayPal being the payments industry. My current role, I lead the finance platforms as well as analytics platforms serving sales, marketing, product, business analytics, as well as operations. So I would say one of the boldest move I have done, which not only impacted me, also, I was very happily raising my family in 2014 in Charlotte, North Carolina, with my husband and my girls born and brought up there. And a career opportunity knocked at my door, which asked me to move to San Jose Bay Area and not only relocate, take on a new job to lead a transformation. I relocated my 2 high school going girls and my husband with me on a new job. And that was a huge personal transformation which I took on in addition to a new job and a broad transformation moving from Charlotte, North Carolina regulatory culture to Bay Area innovation culture. And as a result, here I am today.
Thank you, Deepa. And Barb, who is joining us from Deloitte Lifesciences.
Yes, thank you. And it's an honor to be here with all the women and sharing our stories. So my name is Barbara Latulip. I'm the IT executive at Edwards Lifesciences, leading enterprise data and analytics for the company. So leading their strategy and their roadmap to truly leverage data as an asset. So it's been an incredible journey, and much to the same as Deepa, I arrived in California about 2.5 years ago with 3 suitcases. Leave my family behind and got settled a bit, but it was a huge personal transformation. But what I really looked to as my bold move was when I had a great mentor and he came to me, and my background is doing SAP implementations, which is how I really developed a passion around data, because data was a challenge with any ERP implementation. But I got more focused on data quality, data governance, and part of the roles a CDO would play. And he asked me to take on data science. So he asked me to govern a big data lake as well as develop data science as a service. And at the time that felt a bit out of my comfort zone. And I think the incredible opportunity is when it's presented to you, take it. So it was a bold move and really developed a very strong, I'd say, internal capability to really leverage advanced analytics. And to this day, that's where my passion lies. So I was really happy to be presented with a great opportunity that stretched me and to really be able to bring that to other companies that I've worked as well.
Thank you, Barb. And what an amazing panel we have here, diverse backgrounds. And I'm sure we all have our individual career paths and challenges to face. And we are all tech leaders. So one of the things we see a lot of discussion around it, the demographics are changing. There's certainly a urgency now around the challenges we have around diversity and inclusion. And you all come from data analytics, AI space. What do you think data and AI, what role does it have in supporting gender diversity? And I'll start with Barb, with you, if you can share your thoughts on that.
Sure. And interesting enough, when we started a data analytics team, it was very global, right? So our goal was to really not only have global capabilities and build some COEs, but really to recruit women to these positions, right? And for me, having a diverse team is really key, because that really equates to a high-powered team. So you need the diverse kind of perspectives. And when we talk about data science, it just isn't necessarily a data scientist. I say it takes a team effort. So you need data engineers, you need business analysts. So you have to be able to go out and truly focus on what's the business problem you can solve with data. and bringing women in and having them understand the business challenges and the technology, I just think is truly incredible to drive a very diverse team. So for me, I welcome having the different perspectives as well as being challenged, right? These are complex problems we're trying to solve. As we all know, there's a lot of data, right? So just because you have a lot of data doesn't mean it has a meaningful use to what you're trying to solve. So I really think it opens up a lot of opportunities for women to be part of that team culture and leveraging analytics.
Ashley, would you like to share your thoughts?
Sure, I completely agree with everything Barb said, and I think, you know, it's more than creating the opportunity. It's almost an imperative, I think, to drive that diversity, right? Diversity from a gender perspective, from any number of perspectives, because we're seeing, you know, AI is such a powerful technology, right? And to what you just said, if you have data, that's great. It's really the insights that you can pull out of that data, how you apply that data. And so being aware of, you know, how you might be training models based on assumptions that go in, you know, to how you create those applications is really important. And I think to make it as equitable as possible, you really want diverse views baked into the use of that data, the collection of that data from the very earliest stages.
Deepa, what are your views? How can AI or data help increase or support gender diversity?
You know, data is a really big word, as Barb and Ashley write. Data blanket or an umbrella. We are putting engineering, analysts, data management, data governance, metadata, lineage, building models, technical management for data, understanding business stakeholders, problems, and relationship. So if you put all this in the bucket of data, for me, one of the biggest things I look for is diversity of thought. And diversity of thought is required to solve these big complex challenges what we have in hand, and especially we all are on video today with COVID-19 situation. So you need those creative minds, creative thinking to kind of build end-to-end solution to solve business needs. So I feel bringing more women leaders in the company who can help you think differently. And I can quote an example. Me, so one of the, in a large implementation in my prior role where I had all the male leaders and they were going on, you know, for an implementation, have we done enough and are we on the path to success? And there was a female leader, I was listening to her and she was like, no, but I need a backup plan. Everything doesn't go right the way you're thinking. What is our backup plan? And nobody had thought about that the backup plan is required because everybody's focus was get to that successful implementation. So that just kind of stayed with me, saying like, hey, how important it is to ensure success in whatever mission we have, to bring that diversity of thought so that we can collectively build amazing things and solve business problems.
I completely agree with saying, and Barb and Ashley, great thoughts, right? We all know that diversity of thought is super important, you know, and especially as we go into more and more data insights and AI, as we are encoding more of the intelligence, you need those different perspectives. I do think we focus on gender diversity because that happens to be the largest minority demographic that we, you know, let's start with fixing that. And having built a few data and AI teams from scratch, you know, there's definitely one opportunity I think AI provides is also the need for domain expertise, right? Like SMEs, where you don't necessarily just need to have the technical chops, like Barb said. It's not just about everybody on a data science team doesn't need to be a data scientist. You need the engineers, you need the QA, you need product managers, project managers. One way is potentially to get you know, more diverse candidates trained on the support technologies and make them part of the core team, right? At least we'll make some progress in getting in diversity. And Barb, I know you mentioned that a mentor actually helped you make a bold move. Would love to learn more about, what advice or guidance do you have on finding a mentor? How do you actually find a mentor who can have a meaningful impact on your life? You have a great story. Would love to hear your story around mentorship, what you've experienced being a mentee, and what are your thoughts on how can people get a valuable mentor?
Sure. And interesting enough, this mentor actually was my leader, right? And I was the only woman on an executive team with 13 men. So, it was very interesting. And I've encountered that probably frequently, right? So, and then you have to learn to be very adaptive with that. So I think you need to have your voice. So I would encourage women to bring their voice to the table, right? So I always spoke up. I always gave my perspective. And so as he mentored me, and it was around the data science practice, and I said, well, I'm not a statistician. I don't necessarily have a data science background. And he said, but you know the business problems, right? And he was very encouraging. And then, what was really great is when I started with the team, I met the team of data scientists, and really we focused on solving a common problem, and we all brought our diverse and unique skills to the table, right? So then it was really, focus on your strengths. And I think that's what he saw in me. Right. And so we went from a team of 3 data scientists. And when I left that particular role, it was built out to 15 and still going strong. So we were able to show a lot of results quickly, which I think, look for, I'd say think big and deliver often. Right. So look for those quick wins. And he really fostered me to have more confidence. So really what I look for in mentoring is 2 things. And even now, I think we all need mentors as well, right? So we can be mentees ourselves. And plus, often you have to know how to navigate, I'd say, the culture and the politics. So it's not always necessarily about navigating your technical aspects of your job, right? So I think you need to find someone, if you're looking for a mentor, who, I think has some influence. A lot of companies, I know Edwards as well, we've started a Women in Tech group. So you can take it upon yourselves to also start networking. So we have breakfasts once a month. And then I'll be approached by women who do want to come into the tech area. And so we go out for lunch, right? I make a point of networking. We go out for lunch, maybe every other week. We talk about their challenges. And more importantly, I've had a lot of positions open up that I've been able to recruit some of them. So you kind of foster that with them, and you give them the encouragement that they can leverage the skills they have. They don't have to be experts at everything, but they have to have the willingness to learn and the passion.
Great, thank you. Deepa, what would your guidance be on finding mentors and being a mentee?
I'm a strong believer of the relationship. I've had several mentors throughout my career. As we all progress through various stages in our life, our needs change. Early on in our career, we are looking for something, and as you climb up the leadership roles and the management layer, your needs become very different. So I have had several leaders helping me out, validating my thought process, the things which I wanted to explore, and I wanted a different perspective. And as Barb said, organizational culture and politics is one of the things. No matter how much you study, there's always more to learn and more to kind of practice on. And especially when when your peers and other leaders around you keeps changing, your challenge is you are back to square one of learning again with that individual. So you need more ammunition in your bucket more skills to go tackle that problem. So that has been like I've been very blessed to have that around me, which has helped me grow quite significantly as a person and in my thoughts of maturity, as well as from a leadership perspective to make an impact in my career. As far as mentee, I am strong believer of that. I have lots of people in PayPal. We have Unity as the kind of mentee program. I do have my own mentees, and in fact, right, since we are virtual, so we do meet once a month and we discuss topics. And I feel it's a two-way relationship. I get to learn about them, their backgrounds and their questions, how are they thinking, their strengths, and then they get to learn from me my kind of challenges, how I navigated those situations, and if they can take those nuggets. So I truly believe in that relationship, and not only to work related. I do have mentors outside my industry also, who are not in my company and who are not in my current job profile. They are outside of this IT data industry, and I do reach out to them time to time just to kind of pick their brains on how to see the future, what's there in future, how did they kind of build those transformations, and just learning from them. I love learning and just making my perspective to be an informed perspective.
Yeah, and it's so true. We can learn so much from our mentees as well. I agree with you. I think it's almost like think of having your own personal board of directors, which is mentors who can help you with your career, with your growing as a person, your other interests. It's amazing. Ashley, what's your experience with mentoring, and what guidance can you provide on finding?
Sure. Well, it's very similar to what you said. Is I've always thought about this as my own personal board of advisors, right? And each of us have so many facets, right? So there's the part of me that, is kind of a woman navigating in a technical field. There's the part of me that was an entrepreneur, the part of me that's now navigating a larger company. And so having mentors who can really help in those specific areas, as well as provide an alternative view, if it's not, perfectly aligned, I found hugely valuable as I've kind of gone through my career. And on the other side of the coin, right, being really open with mentoring back, I've learned so much in those engagements, right? Even just rethinking about how I might have faced a challenge and discussing that with somebody who's facing something similar. There's a lot of good learning to happen on that path as well. So I think it's hugely valuable. I think a lot of it comes down to what Barb mentioned around relationships, right? It really is finding those people you connect with over time and that you're learning from and you can have a rapport with, and not, letting those go, even if you move on to a different career or move across the country, and maintaining those, both up to the mentor and back down to the mentees, because it is a really, at the end of the day, it's all about people and those opportunities that we can provide to each other. And that's how I've found many opportunities myself. So.
Yeah. They say that, mentors can see beyond, see your true potential beyond what sometimes you may not even be able to see, because you just focus so much on the tactical aspects, right? Yes, Barb.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting, so it's around building your network too, right? So to your point, I've reached out to a lot of people outside my industry, but I have to say that the majority of roles that I've moved into have found me, right? So it wasn't a clear path I had, but rather my networks and what other individuals saw in me and the visions I had that led me to future roles. So I would say really foster, again, your mentors and your broader network as well.
Yeah. Very true, very true. And we don't really, many of us don't take the time to invest in, having that personal network that you can actually tap into. and stay in regular touch. The day-to-day jobs just take there. So very valid point. Changing gears a little bit and shifting to data, we would love to hear how you have used data in interesting ways. What are some of the challenges that you've used to get value from data, and challenges that you've faced, and also how have you addressed those challenges by using data? So we'd love to hear more. Deepa, should we start with you?
Sure. Well, I'll kind of bring to the current events. With COVID-19, like as most of us have experienced, with the lockdowns, our shopping pattern and behaviors have changed. And what does that mean? Like we have gone more online and doing shopping and paying through the ways of online mechanism. And that brought an interesting kind of challenge for me as a professional. I remember like generally we get ready for the holiday season in near Thanksgiving and December. That's our peak period to do the business, and there is certain preparation required so that we can scale out our environments for the data, which is going to come and drive insights and provide value to the customers. And this year, certainly, like, with the COVID situation happening, all the holiday season just moved up. And it happened in March, and we were not, it was a huge challenge for all of us to kind of, handle that situation and bring more value to our customer and understand the need, what they had, and solve that problem to scale out so that we can provide those services not only within the United States and globally. That was something which I felt really stretched me as a professional. Think about how can we add more value and looking at the data and the volumes and behaviors and patterns to make an impact broader than just our company.
Yeah. Barb, would you be able to share a story around how you have used data?
Sure. So again, I think it goes back, and I see kind of the trend. So no matter where I've worked, I've still seen, let's call it data silos, right? That there's hesitancy to share data internally, oftentimes, because again, teams are very just sensitive about their data. But also externally, right? And especially working, I think, in the case that we talked about COVID, or even in the healthcare, if you focus more on patient pathways and how data can help patients, I think you can drive more collaboration and start breaking down some of those silos. I know what a current obstacle to me has always been is when I come into companies and, they look at me as the data governance guru, right? And everyone thinks data governance is really around compliance and really making sure that there's controls around data. That's one aspect, but I've had a big paradigm shift where I say, if you have good data governance and you have good business semantics, then you drive consistency and you're able to actually access the data more quickly for more relevant, as we call them, business use cases, right? So you're actually there to help the business find their data, have access to their data, and drive more business value with it. So governance to me is really an accelerator, not an inhibitor. So I've been very successful in really socializing the concept of a data marketplace. I think internally now we're calling it almost farm to table. So how do we really develop that data pipeline? But then again, how do we stay focused on that business imperative that solves either a patient problem or an operational problem?
So true. I'm a big believer in that, putting in the guardrails in place so that you can innovate faster, right? I totally see governance as something that can actually help us, enable us to go faster. Ashley, would you have a story to share on how you use data?
Sure. So our business really is data's at the heart of it, right? So we're taking biological samples and turning it into digitized A, T, Gs, and Cs, right? And there's two sides of this story, right? The one side that's particularly relevant right now is the utility of that data. So even, you brought up COVID, for example. The first viral genome sequence that the Chinese CDC was on an Illumina platform was posted and shared with the global research community. And it was that data that drove the development of the Moderna vaccine candidate, within 2 weeks. So, I mean, huge power of data sharing at the global scale, even if it's one viral genome. And obviously since then, there have been tens of thousands of viral genomes deposited in these data platforms. And we're looking at, how can we contribute to our pipelines and platforms to enable that data sharing on a really broad scale. On the other side of how we use data in this, kind of current climate is our instruments are also kind of smart instruments. They're connected so that you can do your reagent monitoring, look at your hardware and sensors within the system. And so as we looked at that and saw kind of trends as the pandemic was spreading globally, we could help anticipate our customers' needs in where, they might be needing to react to the pandemic as well as it was circulating. So a lot of interesting ways, either on the utility of the data we generate or just on our business as a core piece. But I couldn't agree more at the value of kind of breaking that out and contributing for the broader good. Once you have those guardrails in place and you're a trusted, data steward of that information.
Yeah, so true, so true. I'll just say, I have a couple more questions for this amazing panel, but I just want to let the audience know that if you have any questions, you can submit your questions on Slido while we continue with a couple more questions, and then we'll start addressing the questions that the audience might have. So maybe Ashley, we'll start with you on this one. Can you share a personal story where you were able to overcome an obstacle and help you grow in your career? Any challenge that you overcome?
There have been many, I guess.
Right?
Yeah, no, that's such a good question. I think one of the biggest challenges is navigating, when you have a passion for this space, right? And you may not be the absolute deep expert in all aspects of it, right? But you can roll up your sleeves, you can get deep in part of it. How do you build the team around you to be successful to execute on that vision? And I feel like I really had to learn that, kind of the hard way in starting this company years ago. So we had a patient at the center of this story, a young girl who was suffering with, severe neurological disorder. And we knew that by sequencing her whole genome and her parents' genomes and using our analytical tools, that we probably could find, the mutation that was causing her disorder. So we were able to do it in a process that would take, months. Under typical analysis scenarios, we were able to execute in, half a day, right? And now that's even faster. This was, 10 or so years ago.
Yeah.
But at the time, I saw what's possible. I was a postdoc, right? I wasn't the software developer. And so how did I, paint that vision and surround myself with the people who collectively we overcame that obstacle, right? It was much less about me personally and more of just figuring out how to fill in, my areas where I'm not so strong to do that.
I love it. Being able to identify the right people to surround yourself with so that you can get to the solution faster. Love it. Barb, would you have a story to share around an obstacle that you overcome and that's actually helped?
Sure, like Ashley, I think we've all had few obstacles, right? So I think really, I'd say you have to be flexible and adaptive, right? So you have to be willing to take the input from various folks. What I always do, and I'm working on several large projects, whether they're ERP or data lakes, is listen to, I always say, am I truly focused on the experience of the user, right? So if I say what's delivering success, and you also have to know when to kind of, I'd say, kind of stop the project and restart up again if it's not meeting the actual need. So I actually just recently did that when I came in, is I was able to come in with a very strong case about why I felt we should go in a different direction. But it was selling the vision, to Ashley's point, which I think, especially if they're new concepts, can be kind of hard. And what's helped me during those times is the relationships and the trust, right? So what I found coming in and coming up with a roadmap on MDM, data lakes, data quality, data governance, is I spent a lot of time with stakeholders up front, being able to communicate how it would help them, right? And then the trust was developed. So even if you're slipping your project, say by maybe a month or two, or you have to readjust, it's about delivering value and a better user experience. And I think, if you stay focused on that and just be transparent, that helps.
Thank you. Deepa?
Sure. One of the things with my background, being an engineering leader, you're solving problems. So technology was never a challenge for me. Building various solutions to kind of solve business problem was kind of the core, which I really enjoyed. But when building a strategy at the enterprise level, enterprise data strategy, keeping all the components in mind that the data can be of different kinds, and it can be consumed by different departments like your finance and legal and fraud and risk and payments. And how do you put a perspective, and how do you understand that each of the data from these departments is connected? And as Barb kind of talked about the guardrails and data governance in one area for finance means something else versus in the analytics area is a lighter version of it. And while building that enterprise data strategy, I realized that I had to learn the perspective of various departments and their business state, their challenges. So again, the example was like payments data was very different than the finance data because the focus was completely different. And then the risk data was completely different, the data science models, and they needed something else versus what payments needed and what finance needed. So in that journey, I remember meeting so many stakeholders and understanding. It was an exhaustive process, I would not lie to that. Like, putting the big puzzle together and understanding the needs. But what got me there, like what I learned and it helped me grow was basically the trust I earned during that exercise and the relationship I built, regardless of the outcome, whatever the outcome was, whether we executed the outcome or we built the plan version 1 of the outcome. But it really helped me kind of connect the dot beyond engineering. If you need to kind of build an enterprise data strategy, you need these perspectives. And the only way you can get these perspectives is by building the relationship and earning trust.
So true, Deepa. I think, to be heard is a basic human need. And, sometimes in the context of business, we try to get to the solution as fast as possible without considering all the perspectives. So we have a few questions coming in. The first one, ladies, in your opinion, how could we manage the 2020 year as an outlier and just not consider 2020 in our future algorithms for any behavioral analytics? Does anybody want to take a stab at answering that?
I'll take a crack at this. 2020. So as we know from a data quality perspective, we never have 100% of the data quality. And wherever we have the data blocks missing, we make assumptions and we create some assumptions. So, and if we look back at the history, depending upon which industry you're coming from, you might not have last 10 years or 15 years of data. So I feel 2020 is going to be, maybe it will be kind of, we will have some kind of a assumption-based models on that to look at the abnormality in the data. The data abnormalities will be there if you're taking that 2020 year into our models as well as in the insight, but we will have to have a reasoning why those abnormalities are there, or we choose not to include that data trend, because you'll be looking at the trend, you will have the data. So there are several options to handle that.
Another question, and this might be perfect for you, Barb. Can either any of you share your experience differentiating between a mentor and a champion? And which do you believe has been most influential in your trajectory? I think this one would be a great one for all of you.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear your perspective. Barb, should we start with you?
Sure. So I view the mentor as giving me a bit more, how would I say, personal advice, that I can have that level of trust, that I might be able to discuss a difficult situation or navigate the organization, right? So a mentor to me is a bit more on a personal level. I could say a champion I have, for example, is our CFO, or like our vice president global supply chain. They're huge champions for data quality and data analytics. Clear the path for getting program funding and support the overall enterprise strategy. But a mentor, again, is much more specific. So I think helping you navigate your career and your personal ambitions.
Thanks, Barb. Ashley, would you have anything to add to the difference between a mentor and a champion, and how do they influence?
No, I mean, that nails it. I think, like Barb, the champion or the sponsor can help you get things done, right? It's very kind of execution oriented, get you to see at the table, battle through obstacles, in there when you're not in the room. And you have to find who those people are in your organization so that you can move forward, right? On things that you think are strategically important to push. So that's really, really important to identify. May or may not, typically not the exact same person who will come and help you on the personal development, growth opportunity, skills development side, other than giving you a seat at the table to hone those skills.
Right. Deepa, what's your perspective?
Ashley just summed it up, like champion or a sponsor, I will club them together. And then the mentor definitely goes on your personal development. And I have seen the sponsor or the champion for the cause in the organization, the mission in the organization, the change or the transformation. Sometimes in some situations, mentor and a sponsor can be two different individuals. In some situations, sponsors have kind of stepped into a role of a mentor also to guide. If you're going a little bit on the left side, and we kind of provide you that coaching, saying, hey, you're off track and this is what was expected, maybe you want to tweak that. So they are very important relationships to have, and it takes a lot of effort to foster both the relationships equally. Sponsorship it's never given to you, it's always earned. And same goes with the mentorship. You can ask for one session or one meeting for mentoring, but for the next one, you have to earn it.
Yeah, so true. It's the unspoken rule, right? You can choose your mentors, but you can't choose your sponsors. They have to choose you. And I think both are equally important as you navigate your career and grow. So there is a very interesting one which makes me smile, this question. Have you ever felt, and then in brackets, subtle gender bias for being a woman in the technical field? And so have you ever felt subtle gender bias for being a woman in a technical field? Ashley?
I'll start with that, Beena. So I am an engineering graduate. So basically, with my background, when I did in computer engineering, it was a highly dominated, male-dominated field. So at that time, maybe I did not realize the meaning of bias, but I did realize that I was different. I thought differently, and I coded differently. And accepting that, that I am different from others, it did not demoralized me. But what it gave me was the confidence that I have to work differently to make my place. And how do I make my place in a very math-oriented and computer code, like who can write the best code in the shortest possible amount of time in the engineering? That's what we learn in colleges.
Yeah.
But the creativity came from, I would say that was the seed of my creativity, which pushed me to think differently. And knowing my variables around my competition around, so that thinking really helped me. And being in the tech, yes, I still find there aren't many engineering leaders. It's a hard thing to do, but I have been very fortunate to kind of work with a lot of good people who understand, or wherever we had challenges, having an open conversations with them to understand their perspective. Why do they think this way, or what could I have been done differently to kind of earn their trust? So I would not say it's an easy path. It takes effort.
Ashley or Barb, would you like to answer the questions? Have you ever felt gender bias in your technical field?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I mean, I think it would be naive to say that it doesn't exist, right? And I think that there's gradients of that, right? Rarely have I encountered any overt malintent of gender bias, and oftentimes it's just a lack of exposure or awareness. And I think it all comes down to the way that you frame your reaction to it. And I loved what Deepa was saying. It really comes down to either how do you figure out how you navigate in that space in a way that plays to your strengths, or gives you those opportunities. For me, my reaction is it kind of lights a fire to make me work a little bit harder, right? To say, okay, let me just, show that we're absolutely as capable here. And it gives me a little bit of a drive, for better or worse. So it's not, ever been something dramatically, as an obstacle in my career. It was interesting, kind of being a technical founder, pregnant, raising money. You hear all sorts of comments that, for another time we could share. But outside of that, experience, everyone is, I feel like very well intentioned in increasing diversity in the space.
Barb, do you have something to share?
Yeah, like Ashley mentioned, I think that yes, we wish it did exist, but there's been several instances. I think one early on, I was a single mother of two, so that made it very challenging at times to balance, certainly work and career. So I did feel in those cases there was some bias as part of that. And there was probably even a time I made a choice to, kind of put a pause on my career as a result of that too, right? Because it just wasn't the time. But the good news is, for the most part, most of my bosses were understanding, and I've gone on to a very successful career. I've also been in a situation, again, where I felt that there was bias, that I've also decided to move on to a place where I felt I could be more successful. And that might not even necessarily be as a result of bias too, but sometimes you do find yourself in situations that it's oftentimes that to follow your passion, you do need to make a career change, right? So I do think it is still out there. And, hopefully we can navigate through that. And that's where I think a mentor or your network helps. bounce ideas on how to navigate that type of problem. But I do think it's getting a lot better too.
Yeah. So, I have a story on, how I don't think it's malintention or it doesn't come from a bad place. So I have a story that I'll share that, I was the only woman leader and we were part of this CIO's leadership team, and all my peers were men and the CIO was a man. And his staff meeting used to be from 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. Right? And around 5:30, if the meeting was running over, he would turn to me and say, Beena, do you need to know? Do you need to leave to pick up your kids? He knew that I had young kids. He would turn. And I was like, why is he asking? I got this covered. I can, stay, it's fine. I felt singled out. But then there was one peer of mine who actually needed to leave at 5:30 on Mondays to go pick up his kids because his wife had to work late. And he pulled me aside after a few of these instances and said, oh, the CIO really likes you. He's biased towards you. And I said, no, I feel the other way, that he's singling me out. And, the simplest solution was, my next one-on-one with my manager, I just told him, like, this is how I feel. And it's actually, there is another person on the team who actually needs to leave. So he just changed that pattern. And, in the follow-up meetings, he would say, does anybody need to leave now to take care of personal stuff? So I think, those are subtle, and most of the time it comes from a good place. And a lot of it is up to us to kind of, share that, have that conversation openly.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good insight, is bringing it to someone's attention, because the majority of time it's not ill intent, right? They might just be. So if you bring it to their attention, usually it corrects itself, or they're more they're more aware of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to, Beena, kind of add on to your story. Very similar, but different kind of a read on it. Yeah. So as you know, like the team events happen and we go out for dinners, and dinners are generally late in the night and the drinks are going on and you're looking at the clock, wherever the dinner is, like, I gotta go home and this is not happening. So I had a very similar situation, and before going to the dinner, my boss came to me and he goes like, hey, I am very cognizant of, and I have a lot of respect for women who have to do this multitasking. You just signal me when you have to leave and I'll take care of it. Mm-hmm. So, right, like, we were just kind of starting with the starters and things like that, and the conversations were going on, and I just kind of say like, hey, it's kind of like, just showed him my watch, like, I gotta, good to meet you all, very nice talking to you, but gotta go. And, surprisingly, he stood up for me, like, with my peers, and they said like, no, she has things that, like, pre-scheduled commitments. So I am here to kind of, drink more with you. So she's gotta go. So that was kind of, just my kind of reaction to that story that happened to me. And I was very, like, I later on had a conversation with him and kind of complimented his thoughtfulness. That he really thought about it, that it could be a situation, regardless of my gender, it could be a situation where I have to handle, and I don't prefer to be kind of staying there late and be driving late in the night.
Thank you for sharing that. And and I think it takes a certain level of maturity and experience. I can't imagine having said that, having addressed it so openly early on in my career, right? As you grow in your career, realize everything that's going on, it just gives you the courage to have that open discussion and to ask for what you need. We have a few more questions, but unfortunately we are running out of time. So I would like to do one rapid fire, and if you can in one sentence say, what's a piece of advice or guidance you would give to a woman who wants to join the data field? Barb?
I would say, if the opportunity presents it, take it, right? I think women often sometimes are hesitant to go for those if they don't feel they fit 100% of the skills, but I would really encourage you to take those opportunities.
Jump at the opportunities.
Jump at the opportunity.
Don't be scared. You can do everything in this world.
Mm-hmm.
Go for it.
Love it. Ashley?
Yep, I would say find your mentor, find your sponsor, and if this is your passion area, you can absolutely jump in. It's not going anywhere. It's a huge emerging, growing space, and we need more diversity.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and experiences. Thank you to everyone who attended Deloitte's Unleashing the Power of Women in Data panel. Check out our website. The link is on the slide in front of you. And join us at our virtual booth for a one-on-one dialogue and a chance to win a prize for up to $200. We're also hosting a keynote session tomorrow at 10:15 a.m. EST on data harmonization. And I know there were some technical questions that came in. That would be a great session to get ask the questions and actually get answers during the session tomorrow on data harmonization, how data can unlock business agility, with panelists from Dell and Anthem. Tune in and learn how to accelerate your business into a leading position by leveraging data. I want to thank my panelists again for making this a fun, engaging session. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.
Let me also extend my thanks to Beena for putting together such a wonderful panel. It was a thoroughly enjoyable hour, and I think we had some really good questions around all of this. We're going to take just a 5-minute or so break and be back in here at 4:35 p.m. We're not going to change anything here, and look forward to carrying on with the next sessions. Thank you all very much.